Hi guys, Louis here and welcome back to Acorn Hill. Good morning. It's Saturday, it's the weekend, and I'm being creative with my shot today because it seems like I'm in a forest of flowers and blooms and plants. But I wanted to showcase to you a plant I will be putting out in the landscape today, and these are the hellebores. Hellebores are winter plants. These are plants that one can see in December and January. Garden centers would make an attempt at selling them, and even grocery stores. And these are hellebores that I got fairly friendly in terms of pricing at Trader Joe's. And so, not sponsored by Trader Joe's this video, but there's a lot of hellebores right now that are being sold by this grocery chain, and I wanted to show you what I have, plant them, and give you the basic 411 and care for planting hellebores. These are very easy to care for, tough as boots type of plants. It's good for us to learn the plant behavior, the plant characteristics, and how we can care for this properly. Also, how we can do winter maintenance for them. I had this little setup today because I figured, hey, you know what, might as well show you what I'm planting outside. I will talk to you guys as I go along with my planting. For those of you who are able to acquire hellebores, I'll give you the basic information on them and how we can grow them year after year. They are perennial and they grow year after year in the garden. I'm excited because today is the first day that I'm going outside for my outdoor gardening for 2021. Spring is almost here, and there are sure signs that spring is on its way with the birds chirping. 2 days of good sunshine outside with mild temperatures. So it is time. It's time to start getting back into the ground and digging in and getting my hands dirty again. So I'll see you soon. I'll go outside and I'll bring these outside so we can start planting them. So join me when we go outside today here in Acorn Hill.
So, hellebores. More than a decade ago, I inherited a garden when we bought our property in New Jersey, and there were hellebores on the side of the house. Now, the colors ranged from creamy white, yellow, speckled pink, even down to the richest burgundy, and that piqued my interest in knowing what these plants were. They do well in a damp garden, and there was a section of our property then that had well-draining soil with a lot of moisture. I learned early on that they do well in damp gardens that have sunshine in the summer and lots of shade all winter long. For me, hellebores has it all. It gives you a lot of flowers and blossoms during the bleak winter months, and then during the growing season from spring all the way to summer, you get blousy leaves that can overtake a big patch of garden bed, which provide a lot of texture and good variations of color of different hues of green. Well, this basic appreciation for hellebores was more than 10 years ago. Fast forward to us moving to North Carolina, and the whole climate is different, the soil is different, even the type of growing plants in different parts of the garden can be different as well, and so that made me restudy the hellebore. As I mentioned earlier, I got these hellebores from Trader Joe's. Now, for some reason, this time of year, Trader Joe's selling them, they're already fully grown at half the price of what would be the same size you would get from the garden center. And as you can see, what we got is the light pink and the mauve burgundy type. They came from really good growers, and so for $10 per pot, that really isn't a bad deal. What I got are what's called singles, but there are also doubles, meaning there are double petals on each flower that are available and worth having. Now, when you choose your plants, when you choose your hellebores at the garden center, choose them when they are in full bloom. That way you can see what color they are and what type you're getting. And so moving along to planting them in the landscape. This is a garden bed that I built last year. In front of the house, for some reason, the builder planted a tree, and this tree has matured, which gave me an opportunity to create a garden bed where we can have more plants that would love the shade in the summer and the early spring, late winter sunshine that it gets. This faces the east side. After cleaning up this garden bed of stray twigs and and some emerging weeds, it is time to plant the hellebores. Now most hellebores like well-drained soil in sun or dappled shade, which is the perfect spot for these plants that I got. Under this tree, it will provide that dappled shade in the spring and summer. They will be as happy as Larry and their clumps will increase in size year after year. When planting already potted up hellebores from the garden center, what I do is dig up a hole using this green shovel that I have and create a hole that is as deep as the pot itself. I take the plant out, and before putting the root ball, a dusting of blood, bone, or fish meal, and in my case I'm using planktone today, will provide that much needed boost for the root ball to grow in, will provide the nutrition that the new plant requires, and will allow for this to grow during the coming months. Note that on the top of the garden bed, there is the brown polytubing that I installed last year. This carries water. Late spring is when I turn on the faucet. It is on a timer, and that live water waters the garden beds at a schedule. It saves me a lot of time, and it prevents me from being a slave to watering these plants. In this clip, you see that I'm going to use my planktone, dropping it in the hole that I just dug, and I have a potted hellebore that I'm about to replant. This potted hellebore has been inside the house for about 3 months. It's one of those really early ones that we got from the garden center at half price as well. The color of the blossom for this hellebore is green, so that should brighten up this shady area when we get leaves coming from the tree. Now this new plant that I got, which we purchased 3 months ago, already bloomed. And so now I'm tidying this up, and tidying the plant means you would have to prune off those 5-fingered leaves, similar in shape and form to those of a horse chestnut. I realize I'm doing this ahead of schedule, but this is a good time for us to learn about pruning them and keeping the hellebore. Now from April to January, you will have to tidy them up. We would have to scissor them off those leaves all the way to ground level, taking care not to damage the flower buds, which will be nesting on the surface of the soil. Now, there are 2 reasons for this dramatic pruning operation. The first is to remove the old leaves, which is the obvious thing. And the second is that you are less likely to be plagued with a nasty disease that occasionally affects the plant, called black rot. Black rot is the lesion that you would see on the leaf that looks like black spots, and these black spots are bacteria that you don't want to fester within the dying leaves and infect the other leaves of not just the hellebore but other plants that are planted alongside of it in the garden bed. Alright, one hellebore planted in the ground, another hellebore about to be planted in. Now notice that this hellebore is really root bound. There's healthy roots that have circled around inside the pot, and what I'm doing here is I am hurting it by lightly tapping on the roots and cutting them off. This will encourage more root systems to grow. Teasing the roots the way I did isn't bad for the plant. In fact, it actually likes it. Putting the root ball into the hole that I just dug, which is already pre-filled with planktone, I put back all the well-draining soil that I have in this garden bed, and onto the third hellebore we will go. And here we are on the opposite side of that same garden bed. Now, on this side, last year I had planted several of these heirloom irises that we have. These are German bearded irises that have flowered and thrived well into this part of the garden bed. But with all the shade that it's been getting, I was concerned that it will not produce more flowers this coming year. So what I'm doing here is I'm pruning all the leaves. I will be uprooting these rhizomes, and I will transplant all these irises somewhere else in the garden. And I will give you a different vlog on it so that you know how to plant irises, especially good ones that you may have in your garden. And so there, third hole being dug up, all finished, and placing some of those planktone that I have, an all-purpose fertilizer that will give it the strength and vigor that the plant needs once it's planted in. I put in the root ball, pull back the soil, tamp it down, water them well, and all that's left is allow these plants to grow during the growing season, and I'll expect them to give us more blooms and more foliage year after year. Thanks for spending a few moments with me on this video. I appreciate you watching, and I hope you learned something new today about hellebores. They're also called Lenten rose because these are the first types of flowers that bloom right around the time of Lent. If you like this video or happen to chance upon my channel, welcome to Acorn Hill. Consider subscribing. I have a lot of content and material that I will put out for the growing season and for 2021. Also, click on that like button and share our video. Spread the word about Acorn Hill to your friends and family, learning from each other through the comment section. If you happen to plant hellebores, I'd like to get some tips from you guys and anything special that you do for your plants. For now, this is Louie, keeping busy here in the landscape and appreciating all these hellebores. We'll see you back soon here in Acorn Hill. Bye-bye for now.